sensing imagery and the retrieval of biophysical variables from multi-angle satellite data. He received the NVIDIA Innovation Award 2016 for his work in image information mining and high-performance computing. Warm welcome, sir. Let me take the opportunity to introduce our next outstanding panelist, Ms. Ranjana Maitra, Country Head, International University of New Haven. Ms. Ranjana Maitra is a dynamic, accomplished global leader and entrepreneur with a distinctive pedigree and proven track record of successfully building, nurturing, and scaling businesses. Over 3 decades, she has built and grown businesses manifold in healthcare and life sciences domain, with leading global billions of dollars IT services organizations, TCS, that is from Tata Group, and Wipro, that has witnessed profitable and multiplier growth. After an illustrious corporate career, she is now an influential international education leader, connecting cultures and students, also guiding young and talented minds to pursue higher education in leading global universities. I heartily welcome you, madam. I am honored to introduce one of our noteworthy panelists, Professor Mohan Rao, a pioneer in social media who has played a catalytic transformational role in the field of education by investing and actualizing his potential. He has over 3 decades of experience in a variety of products and markets as Vice President at DishNet DSL, CEO at Datamatics, and Deputy General Manager at Godrej & Boyce. He got full-time into academics from 2002 and was with IES Management College and Research Center, Mumbai as Professor and Associate Dean till recently. Warm welcome, sir. It's my pleasure to introduce our next panelist, Mr. Datta Kuvlekar, who is the Director, Technology and Engineering at Forbes Marshall. Forbes Marshall specializes in mechanical or industrial engineering, industrial automation, and has headquarters at Pune, Maharashtra. His current role further includes being an operations officer, director on board at Codil International Limited UK, and director on board Swiss New Water, an Indo-Swiss startup. He has expertise in designing and analysis and operation of thermal systems, which includes steam equipment design, combustion equipment like burners and boilers, and control systems for steam networks. Hearty welcome, sir, at this session. With great esteem and reverence, I request Mr. K. Nandakumar, moderator of this panel, to kindly commence with this session.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It's a very good afternoon. And after the lunch, of course, it's a big challenge for both panelists as well as the listeners. But I must say that the topic is really challenging, and I'm sure each one will keep you occupied on this. The topic is technology and transition. The thought process came, and of course is creating new age R&D and collaboration opportunities. Whether technology and transition parallelly moving or cross-section, each panelist can take their own views on that. Before giving the topic on this, I would like to have a brief scenario of what it is today. India today spends only around 0.7% of the GDP, compared to major countries spending around 4%. In fact, South Korea spends 4.8% of GDP in R&D. And China, of course, is still 2.2%. For a country like India, with 1.45 billion people, and looking at India 2047, Atmanirbhar, because it's Bharat, we need to certainly look at how we can enhance our research capabilities, our basic infrastructure, industrial outlook, and on top of it, we are committed to the global community that we will become net zero by 2070. You know that last year, India was hosting G20. As part of the G20, we were also having B20, in which CII was also part of the process, and I was also very actively involved in CII for the last 40 years. In the concluding session of the B20, there was one session on one day on technologies to make net zero. The first session was concluding on that. After the discussions of 1 hour, people looked at what is the cost involved in getting into net zero by, of course, by 2050, because most of the global countries have said that 2050 should be the aim for net zero. Can you ever imagine that the money required for converting or making India, global community net zero by 2050? It was a mind-boggling $200 trillion. Everybody in the hall, it was full, more than 87 countries people were there, was astonished to have $200 trillion we need by 2050 to make the globe by net zero. It was a challenging. I myself was there. It was mind-boggling. And some of the technologies, when we looked at that, well, I agree some technology need, but the nuclear technology, which was already developed and India is also had, why we are not looking at it? Nuclear technology is the most clean, but of course there is a challenge of safety. But when I look back, nuclear technology still challenges of safety is manageable, it's only very few are there. And in today's world, there are a lot of new technologies, even in the nuclear which has come, which is SMR, small modular reactors or micro modular reactors, which has come 20 megawatt or 30 megawatt. But nobody was talking about nuclear, maybe because of the safety. Then I thought safety is one critical area. We need to look at more research, how to minimize, how to eliminate the radioactive safety relation. Looking at that session, the next session was financiers, who will finance this $200 trillion. And most of the international finance companies were there, and none of them are willing. And they say, we utilize pensioners' funds. We need to have returns. How do we ensure that we will get a return? So nobody was willing to fund $200 trillion. That is the moment when I thought that each country has to look at research as one of the critical areas to make it much more affordable, apart from achieving the targets. So when we look at that net zero, when we look at India's opportunities there, of course, I agree, India need to have multi-tier. It cannot be that one solution, because for a country like 1.4 billion people, it has to be multi. Some of them will be biofuel, some of them will be alternate energy, some of the, even we cannot still avoid our fossil fuels. Certainly we need, because India has the largest reserves of coal. So we can't avoid that coal, but we need to compensate. So in that process, when we look at technologically, we need to put in a lot of efforts. So present 0.7% of the GDP is not sufficient. When I looked at 0.7%, the contribution from the academics is only 7% in India's R&D. 57% is coming from public research institutes of the 0.7%, and nearly 30% only corporates are having. So it need to undergo major changes. You can't expect the government put all the monies on the R&D, because 1.4 billion, as we said earlier, that nearly 66% is below the age of 35 and nearly 20% below the poverty line. Government has a lot of other responsibilities to look at. So corporates, individuals, societies, academics, certainly we have to look at it. And when you look at Canada, 42% of the research coming from Canadian academics. Something which is one has to look at. So Indian academics certainly is capable enough to provide, and that ecosystem is available, we can certainly create. In India, corporates have not put in, apart from some large multinationals put in large money on this, but investment in R&D is still a big challenge. So we need to look at how we can get both corporates as well as institutes and industry collaborate and get into R&D. In that process, I have a learned panelists. I would like each one to have their own view instead of me asking a specific, this is the situation. So I would like to talk to Mr. Surya from IIT.
So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for this opening background. I think it has brought up very important points to discuss. Before I begin, I would like to quote Bernard Shaw, who said, there are two kinds of people in this world. People who see things the way they are and ask why. And there are people who see things that are not there and say, why not? So the all change in this world is because of this second kind of people. But then if you want to ask such questions, it depends upon how creative you are. Research is a creative endeavor. It's not something, you will do it 100 times, 1,000 times, you get a result. It can't be, right? So that creative spirit, creative temperament, scientific temperament has to be inculcated from the very beginning, and of course academic institutions play a lot of role in bringing those things. So like he mentioned about the academia not doing much, about only 7% of it. Because being in US for about 10 years, what I understand is that a lot of the research funding goes to the academia in those countries. All big research institutions are set up within the university ecosystem. A professor has got a lot of money to spend, and then the research is done by graduate students. A lot of these breakthroughs are done by the graduate students, not some big shot scientist sitting somewhere. It's not that. So the problem is not with the academia, but it's the kind of the policy that is going around in the country that we will build specific research institutions to do something. Yes, of course, there is certain amount of success. For example, if you take ISRO, they have built a great ecosystem both for research and then operationalization. But then it's not happening in any other sector in that way. And the other problem in the academia, I think specifically, is that we're not giving enough time to the students to actually get into research. Because we have put them this carrot in front. Here is your job after 4 years. This is what you need to get into. Where will he go into research? It doesn't happen. So it is not, it is not the onus only on the academia. It is also the industry which is trying to lure the students away from doing some serious research. And students wouldn't want to spend a lot of time understanding fundamental aspects of science. We are kind of watering down the basic fundamentals required to develop real science and products. What is happening is that we are teaching them tools that they can be used in the industry. So the problem is that both the industry and academia has to work together to see that what are we building? What do we want our children to be tomorrow? Do we want to create worker bees? Or do we want them to go into an industry and develop products? Do we want to remain a service sector, or do we want to be that sector where we produce products? So with that, I'll stop.
Thank you, Mr. Subra. I fully agree with him. There was a problem related to the institutes not getting enough policy direction as well as funding. In fact, looking at the government also, a couple of years ago, devised a system known as Knowledge Functional Hub. So NKF, Knowledge Functional Hub they put, and in which industry and institutes were partners. What happened is industry had a difficulty because they were moving from Q1, Q2, Q3 concepts. So they were not able to share their resources for the academics. And looking at that, government put up this, but it did not really take up. But the new government has recently brought up the new education policy, which gives quite a lot of opportunities in the coming years for the starting from schools to get into more R&D facilities, more vocational courses. I think we are on the right track to get into. That's what I personally believe, and we need to certainly, industry has to cooperate as well as the community has to cooperate. And I would like to take up Mr. Hemant Joglekar, veteran in the various fields, plus on the academic side, Mr. Joglekar.
Good afternoon. So basically after the lunch, always it is a time to tell a story. Because all of us have a child in us, and you are all vital few after the lunch. And I'm going to tell you a story because I like the theme, R&D, academia and industry. Are you aware we should all be a good observant? This theme, R&D, academia and industry, a short form is RAI. If these three all entities come together and converge for the common goal, RAI can turn into a good ROI, return on investments. So I'm going to tell you about how these three entities can marry together. I had a privilege. I was telling the moderator, sir, that I started my career in Asian Paints for 10 years in R&D. So I have some moral right to talk about R&D. Then comes an academia. After 30 years of investing time in Asian Paints, now I am attached to many colleges, like to the MBAs. I teach supply chain at St. Xavier's. I am academic council member to a couple of universities and autonomous institutes. I am a Gharda Chair Professor of Entrepreneurships at UDCT ICT and a course coordinator also. I am going to talk about it. So what I am going to think is I am going to tell you a story, and I am not going to give any jargons but to a samvad with, because I see some academias and lot of young hearts, students here. So why this proper wedding of these three entities is required? Because I have played all the three roles and I am still learning. So I will tell you a story. How many of you are aware about a story about a Videocon washing machine? I will tell you. So Videocon washing machine, when they launched a semi-automatic washing machine in 1978, Venugopal Dut, like Asian Paint style, they also launched in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Goa, Mumbai, everywhere. And the final launch was in Punjab. And when the Punjab launch happened, suddenly, where all states, everything was successful product, lot of complaints started coming from Punjab. Aapka tub leak ho raha hai, aapka tub leak ho raha hai. Because if you imagine, the washing machine came as a semi-automatic tub and a spinner. Now we have an automatic version. So the Videocon company person, they asked their techno-commercial man to attend the customer complaint. So my first samvad pointer is always understand customer. I am going to tell you my perspective from the angles of R&D, academia and industry also. Today with economic liberalization being 30 years plus, customer is not Kastakar or tu hi mar. Everyone has an internal customer, external customer. I had been to many institutes for campus placements for Asian Paints. So for all of educational background people, we are your internal customers, isn't it? And for you, I mean, we look to you as an academians, as an experts, Saraswati Pujak. So somewhere you are also service providers. So the story goes like this. So the person goes to Punjab and he shouts to Venugopal Dut, "Arey sir, ye to lassi banate hai tub mein." So, you know, they were making, like in Mumbai, there is a cutting chai and vada pav as the USPs. So in Punjab, if you go, they will serve you a lassi. And instead of making one small batch, the scalability, they started making in a tub. Now the tub was not of a food grade plastics and no gaskets of that type. So to shorten the story, the why customer complaints can be source of input. How the academic should see the challenge list and pain list of every situation, this story will tell you. By the way, Asian Paints, the word paints, if you remove T, you are also left with pen. So T is for techniques and technology. We must learn from each other, and that is what I like the theme. So the gentleman said, "Sir, यहाँ तो 60% लोग लस्सी बनाते हैं machine में." Now, if at all there was to be a traditional technology academic R&D guy, the one where R&D is only for DST recognition, tax rebates, and we call this R&D as relax and discuss, R&D. Okay, so we are 35,000 crore company. We know what R&D actually means. We are not here to work on cost reduction because cost and quality are directly related. Don't you agree with me? So that's why we are leader number one and we are still learning. So point is, Mr. Dut called that person back to Mumbai and he had a meeting with marketing guy, technology, engineering, falana, and they said, we have an opportunity which is being told to us nothing but by the customers through customer complaint. And to make again the story short, they discovered, invented in 2200 rupees in 80s, lassi making machine. So my point is, academics also have to, students also have to understand, because after the corona, emotions have become emotions. Let me tell you, I am also teaching to many colleges. Those who are teachers would appreciate that percentage quotient of sensitivity is slowly going down. You know, because of what? This is very smart, but it makes us idiot. So there is a problem where the social connect, people connect, happiness index, creativity index is absolutely missing. And I think industries want academic and students and R&Ds, people who can add a solution, a value addition. So in Asian Paints, always we hire mechanical engineers, electronic engineers, like in Somaya. But you know what industry actually wants? Solution engineers. The one who gives solution. We don't want people to grumble. So my point is that today, Nandakumar sir has given some data. So I will also share some data which I have pulled up. If you see, because luckily today we had a Consul General from Finland. And on those Scandinavian countries and South Korea, they are among the top 5, Japan, in innovations. And we are very much lagging behind. But if I tell you some scores, the country like South Korea, number of researchers per million, 7,498. And the population is 152 million. Japan, 5304, second highest, researchers per million. Population is 126 million. Coming to India, we are the most populous. We have crossed the China. And in these 2 days conclaves, many Indians will be born. So you never know what the population is. But we are 1407 million, 1.4 billion. And you know what is the score of researchers per million? 260. Hence appreciation to the organizers for making a theme of R&D, academics and industry. We must converge on a common goal. Otherwise, it will become like a political slogan of Atmanirbhar, but never ever we will be reliant. We will be becoming an experts, continue to become experts in coding, assembly, but nothing actually out of a basic research. So I strongly feel these areas we must look off. My one last pointer is that, unorganized R&D, we always humorously say it is relax and discuss. Professional R&D, like such good companies where I had an opportunity to work. But I think R&D, the D for development also has to be for deployment, for something which you can delegate, that's very important. And one thing which I will seek from the student is that take appropriate use of social media. Instead of traveling, you should enjoy your life. Spice is a part of the life. But travel to some industries, visit industries, not just for the case of your curriculum. Visit some places, like I heard one speaker talking about Sivakasi, where the people in the specific niche area is working. What are the opportunities we have? Take those as a part of educational tourism. Sky is the limit. Industry wants experts who come with not advices but solutions. Academicians, I would urge you again, please see that we have a lot of information. As a professors, we convert it into a knowledge. But as a successful professor, convert that knowledge into a wisdom. Because I heard Samir Somaya saying that from an individual, we have to create a good character. And industry wants people who understand again A, B, C, D. A, analytical mind. B, behavioral patterns, which is after Corona, soft skills are missing. C, not just knowledge and competency. And D, your domain expertise. So if you are good into that, and on these 3 platforms, if you can work together, definitely we can do better. I will conclude by saying that in ICT, Gharda Industries, the living legend Dr. Gharda, 97-year young, he has donated us 11 crores under CSR. And I am a course coordinator and a chair professor of entrepreneurships. And what Mr. Sitaraman said, that course which he showed on the slide is, I am running on behalf of ICT, MBA, full-fledged, AICT approved, innovations, entrepreneurships, and venture development. I will not miss the opportunity of telling this because this is the right audience. Lastly, there are a couple of NGOs which are working to work with scientific temper creation. Like I am associated as a managing committee member, Marathi Vigyan Parishad. They are also there to help. Garze Marathi Global in US, where I am also their mentor. So this R&D and industry can also hook up to them and let us make 2047 a country which is developed. Thank you very much.
I must say that you have covered all aspects of the 3 topics, and I need not add any comments. But I must say that the new policies which government has brought up is really promoting the R&D, looking at the defective points. For instance, in the case of MSME, and there was there was a provision in the government that you can get 200% of the weighted average for R&D expenses. But did it really benefit the industry after spending that money? It's only an expenses going on. So government looking at that, withdrew that, but instead of that, for MSME, they put cluster R&D program. And I must say that it is only the cluster R&D program when it comes to MSMEs will certainly work. The only requirement for, we have to change the mindset. The MSMEs should think that R&D is collaborative and not competitive. And they should look at, because cluster development only MSMEs, especially as the previous speaker said, nearly 96% is micro, R will not come there. Out of the remaining 4% of the MSMEs, nearly 3.96% is small. There are also only larger portion of the SMEs, small, come into R&D, then medium is coming. So it's hardly around 1 lakh units which is coming into the group of the MSME. But then MSMEs, there also need a cluster program only can become. And today's world, cluster R&D is not difficult because it is a digitalized world. And you can be any part of the India, but you can still have a cluster R&D program connected. And government as well as industry association like CI is also promoting this through various initiatives. In fact, CI itself has got more than 10 centers of excellence. Couple of them are on the R&D areas, focusing on the MSMEs and also the individuals looking at what they can contribute to the society. Thank you, Mr. Jokalekar. Now I invite Mr. Ranjana, and she represents the American universities, and she can certainly value add quite a lot on the Indian collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nandkumar, and thank you, my esteemed panelists also. And I'll try to make it a little different because I think a lot has been covered in the morning and also by all of you today, and now Dr. Rao and Datta will also cover a lot of other information. I've been on both sides, right? I've been in the academia, which I'm there now, and in the industry. I was there for about 29 years in TCS and Wipro. And I can see both the sides that how R&D or innovation has sort of gone across the board, across academia and industry. I'll tell you, since you told about a story, I'll tell you a little story about TCS. TCS was one of the pioneers, Tata Consultancy Services in R&D. Dr. F.C. Kohli, whom I was very lucky that he was the one who sort of selected me, and I came back to India after doing my MBA 33 years back to join TCS. Otherwise, I would have been in the US, and that was the best decision that I took. And he set up an R&D center in Pune, which was unheard of in its times. And that has, that was the vision that, Tata's had. And we didn't know so much about R&D, and as my esteemed panelist also said, that graduate assistants do a lot of this R&D work in the US, and I was lucky enough to do some work on R&D when I was in the US as well. I represent an University of New Haven, which is my alma mater, which I'm very proud to represent. I studied there and it taught me a lot. We were founded on the Yale campus 104 years back, and we have a lot of STEM degrees and a lot of degrees, and we have a great placement cell, and I'm really proud to represent it. Even Bill Clinton has sort of come and taught in our university because it's next to Yale. What I would like to say is that we have a Bargami Center of Science and Technology, which we built 2 years back, completely on the MIT concept. And it's not just excluded to students who are not in STEM. So anyone in any discipline, and I think in the morning also someone said, humanities is very important. So that is also there. So you can do a whole lot of projects out there, and we leave it up to the students to decide what they want to do. And the grants come, of course, the professors have the grants and they do that. So that's interesting as well. The second aspect to what I would like to say that in TCS, which I learned was, and later in Wipro as well, that we used to have a lot of internships from, students like you, from IIT Bombay, from, VJTI, from Somaya, and I must share this with you that I was young that time, and I used to suddenly get in one morning, 15 or 20 students standing around my desk saying, "Ma'am, we have been assigned to you." Now I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with these people, and then I go to my boss and say, "Now what am I supposed to do?" He said, "It's up to you. You have got them for 2 months. You have to think of a project." See, this is the learning that they give. Nobody's spoon feeding you. You have to think of a project. How can they help you in your work? And you think of something. So then I used to sit with them, and some of the most amazing projects came out of that. I know I did a project for Nair Hospital, I did a project for J&J, and it came out from all youngsters like you, because you are so full of ideas, you are so full of beans, and it is so energizing dealing with students. I've been doing that for the last 4.5 years now, being on the other side. And I love your enthusiasm. And I think he said rightly that, I think screen time is something that you should reduce a bit, and your attention span. I'll give you another example which, lately that happened. And he's talked about the lassi thing, and it's somewhat similar. One of my professors of computer science, the head dean, came to me and said, "Ranjana, the Zoom sessions, the numbers are dropping like anything. Do you know what's the problem?" I said, people are fatigued with Zoom. Do not have Zoom sessions. Nobody's going to come for Zoom sessions. The same thing I changed to coffee with students. My colleague is there, she travels, or I did a few coffee sessions in Mumbai, and there was a huge turnout. People want to intermingle with each other, learn about things, and that is what is important today, right? Because the softer aspects are very important as well. So industry, academia, and R&D are totally interlocked, and I will come to it later in, when, Mr. Nandkumar asked me a question that asks us a question that how, it can help all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranjana. I fully agree with you that coming forward, R&D is only a cooperative efforts, collaborative efforts. It's not only in India, across the world you need to have. So the association with universities like you represent, and your August presence here itself and interacting with the students will certainly really help. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mohan Raoji, veteran in the academics as well as industry.
Thank you, Nandakumar sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. I mean, both Nandakumar and Professor I.T. Surya and Hemant, they touched on the aspect of research. The NEP 2020, I'm sure all of you know, now has introduced from last year the 4-year degree of the basic sciences, commerce, everything, with the 4th year research. So there's a big hope, and one of the architects of the NEP, Dr. Ramesh Unikrishnan, will join us in the evening. The big hope that 2030 onwards, in India, from the colleges itself, you'll have students who are research oriented at the undergraduate level. And I'm also told that in 2040, the 7 years before the Vikasit Bharat thing, the research will be coming down the school level to the 8th, 9th, and 10th grade level. Right? So just imagine, we have caught the nip, the bud right now. What is the thing which ailing? That's 0.7% or 264 people only for doing research in India, right? This is what we probably will get the numbers in place. Okay? But what do we have to do as colleges? We all look at grants, we don't get grants, industry doesn't support us, but I think there's something else we have to do. And that is where the research has shown recently, as far as India is concerned, right? Don't remember the research, but it says that we have to pool the talent properly. You create incubation centers, you create the research centers, but there's no talent pooling at all going on. So if you pool the talent together, you'll know what your areas are. Just as example he gave for the videocon, right? From there you got the mixer. Right? So if you're able to pool your talent together, you're able to get a solution for it. So I think our government, whatever the NEP 2020, is actually a game changer. Or it may be an India changer also, India to Bharat, we say. And incidentally, one of the vice chancellors, I don't remember his name, he mentioned that in the tier 2 tier cities, already the students who are at the undergraduate level have already decided their research problem for the 4th year. So just imagine where we are changing. We in urban centers are probably looking at metros and getros to change ourselves. But there the student is looking at the 4th year itself of education, the sciences. I'm not talking about engineering. The sciences area of contributing to research in his own village. That means we are looking at the whole cycle being, I don't have to go do research for else, I can do it in my own village. I look at my farm, see how we can get the produce more, and do that research and get publicity for my father's business. You know, the whole thing is, so it has really gone down, and I think we will see the research-oriented students coming out, which is always a complaint from the industry side, from the 2030 onwards, where we see the fourth-year students coming out doing research. But we also have to help them from industry. And being in the task force for industry academia, and the architect of the scheme is here on my right side, he had started what is called 100-100 relationship partnership 3 years back. 100 industries to 100 institutions. And we did make a lot of progress. But as progress, we figured out, is only on paper. Because the intent has to be there on both sides. The more intent is on the academia side. We always look at industry for placement purpose. Even R&D. Will you place my student in your R&D department? Why look at placement? Look at, give a problem, get it solved, get support industry and move ahead. Placement automatically happen. So we have started that scheme 3-4 years back, and we are still working on that. Not many institutes are able to come forward. Now we're looking at both industry and coming to a very focused, small problem to solve and then create a relationship. So we are doing a lot from the industry association point of view. But I think the main challenge, I feel, I'm also from academics, of course the industry before, the challenge is us. We have to nurture the talent. We have to make the pipeline. We have to really take the advantage of the fact the government has brought in a scheme of 4th-year research. That we should take care of. Thank you so much.
Mohan Rawji, we have rightly said is the new industrial and new educational policy certainly will, I would say, encourage the R&D work from the called school onwards. And certainly it is essentially required, you need to create that R&D within the system, within the people right from the young age. If you look at, that was the success of Germany. In my young age also, even when I started also, I thought India should become Germany of the East. Because every German industry is family owned at that time. And they have been doing across the globe business. So why not India? So I always felt that India has to become a Germany of the East. And I still believe German engineering is superb in the world. So India can certainly. By 2047, when I say that, especially the sector which I come from is the capital goods. India should become the global manufacturing hub. And we have all the resources available. And I certainly feel that with the government support, as well as the efforts from the institutions, as well as industry together, India will certainly become the global manufacturing hub for the sector which we are focusing on, the capital goods, which contributes nearly 35 to 40% of the today's exports. Having said, Mr. Datta, by 2047 we have targeted around $30 trillion as the GDP. And $30 trillion, they expect that our exports also should be around $6 to $7 trillion going forward. And it is possible because this 30 trillion is not only from manufacturing but also from services and all other commodity exports. Given that, looking at the possibilities of developing R&D across the schools, colleges and other things, and industry is coping up, industry still has to do quite a lot of work within themselves in developing the product, not only into the making research and development, but innovate to become competitive in the world. Otherwise, you can't get that $7 trillion. How to become competitive? It is only by continuous innovation. That continuous innovation, industry has to practice along with R&D. So I would like your, because I know Force Marshal very well, they spend a lot of energy, a lot of time and money on R&D as well as innovation. It's a well-respected company. The honor Mr. Naushad Forbes, today he should have been here. He is a very, I would say, backbone is always for the R&D and industry. He's an economist as well as R&D scientist. From Force Marshal, Datta can certainly add more value how India can take up to that 2047 expectations.
So, thank you, Dr. Nandakumar. I think the topic is quite interesting. I think the point that you first alluded to, that the problem is that India does not spend adequately on R&D. And first, that's the first problem. India does not spend adequately on R&D. And whatever it spends, whatever rupees it spends on R&D is spent, I wouldn't say in the wrong sector, but its priorities are inverted. I mean, a lot of R&D spend happens in public sector institutions you mentioned, which we know for sure is a model that has not given impact for India. There are some success stories like ISRO and some of the other labs, but largely the rupees spent on public sector labs hasn't given that many returns. Secondly, the industry. The industry also hasn't spent enough on R&D to become, to contribute to the GDP. And that's the second problem. And third is that higher education institutions. I think that research happening in those institutions is also not adequate. So what you see here is there are two problems, that the amount of R&D spent in India is not adequate. And secondly, the way we spend that rupee is also inverted. And that is what we have to flip. Now, while this is a very laudable seminar that we're having, R&D, academia, and industry, it's not a new problem actually. I mean, it's been a debate for ages, and I think I may have chaired many sessions, and Dr. Rao and many others may have gone through many such sessions. I think the point is, what is it that will propel this structure to change? Yeah. What is that is preventing this equation from not changing so fast? Because it's 50 years, 60 years we've been talking about this, and I must say that, India is now coming of age, in a sense, as you say, the new age R&D is here. People are feeling very positive, people are feeling very optimistic. India is gaining recognition in the world. All these are good news. But we shouldn't mislead ourselves into believing that we are doing the right structural policy changes in the way R&D is being managed in India. Yeah? So I think for that to happen, three things have to change, as we mentioned. That first is, of course, that India has to take opportunities in new age R&D. And what we meant is new age R&D. For example, I will give my company's example. We are a 100-year-old company. Yeah? I mean, a 100-year-old company would be very, very prone to operating in its own way. Yeah? But we do realize that if we operate in our own way, we will probably disappear in the next 10 years. Yeah? We can't afford to do that. So how do we thrive and how do we survive for a company that's been 100 years old? And therefore, for us, it is important that we use all the three pillars of R&D support, that is R&D institutions, the academia itself, and industry. So what we have done is, we have used technology and people as the 2 points of change with respect to what we do within our own company. For example, we have made it a very conscious policy that we do not sign MOUs with institutions and then forget about it. Yeah? And we do not attend industry, academia seminars unless we can see ground action happening. Yeah? So we promised ourselves 2 things, that we'll make a ground change. We will not just speak and we will not just talk in public forums about industry, academia interactions. We want to do it. Yeah? And therefore we took it upon ourselves that as a company, even though we may be a small company in the larger global space, we'll do what our might can do. And the reason why we did it is because we believed very strongly and internally that if we spend more money in R&D, we can get innovative products out. Yeah? We can get innovative products out and we can help export more across the globe. And that is what is propelling R&D spend. And why do Indian companies, especially MSMEs, they feel constrained because they do not see the market. Yeah? And that is where we have to really show the way, that how Indian companies can really propel themselves into the global space, becoming competitive, as you mentioned, and therefore be having the ability to spend money on R&D. Because it does not come automatically. I mean, expecting MSMEs to tomorrow change overnight and start spending more dollars on R&D is impossible. I mean, they won't do it. It's their survival. Unless they see growth, unless they see something happening to their finances, they won't spend a single dollar on either academia or R&D. Yeah? So what we have to really do is show them the market, and markets come from demand, and demand comes from getting more Indian technology, Indian product in the market space. So that is where the inverted pyramid has changed. So what we believed as a company is that we will invest in technology and people. For technology, what we said is, while yes, we have our own in-house R&D team and we spent a lot of money on R&D, and compared to any average engineering firm, we spend almost 3 times the amount that an engineering firm spends in R&D today. We do believe that academia has a big role to play. But we also have a very clear role that we don't want academia to start suddenly becoming product development companies. Yeah? I mean, because academia has a role to shape people and shape the entire society. They should not become, capitalists in a sense, I would say, yeah? Where they start developing products on their own and they start pursuing that for the sake of pursuing. So we are very clear that the role of academia is to pursue science, yeah? Or pursue, science and also to kind of help science develop further. So whenever we have product issues where we want science to be developed and there's academic rigor, we kind of pose those problems to academia, yeah? And then we kind of help them work on that problem and then they shift the problem back after the science is worked out. We take it on as engineering and convert that to a product which can be sold in the market. So to us, having very clear expectations of what academia can do, yeah, is also important. But I would come back to the point that is made today in this title of this session that is there, is the new age R&D. What do you mean by that? As a company which is 100 years old, what opportunities does it present to us to increase our own academic interaction and leapfrog where India has been a player which has been low-key? Is we find that if you look at all the new age R&D, which is, let's say, the whole two trends that are shaping the world is digitization, which is shaping the world, and climate change. Yeah? These are two areas where India can actually leapfrog, and this is where I think India can take the lead in collaborating very extensively with academia. Now, if you ask me things like artificial intelligence or data analytics, the key problem is, do we have enough expertise in academia to be able to be world leading? Do we have industries who are playing a role in both these areas? And the answer is that there is expertise that is spread. So there is a potential opportunity here for creating that kind of collaboration where I think industry and academia can co-create, and there the expectations have to be clear that they have to co-create and not throw it across the border. Yeah. And to me, that is the potential opportunity for India to leapfrog. Especially in the morning, Sridhar Vembu mentioned about LLM, large language models, and I'm told that this is the technology that is going to leapfrog and give India its competitive edge. If we can do something in those two areas of LLM and maybe it's the digitalization space, India has a great opportunity lying ahead. And I think there a lot of work can be done in this space where academia and industry can get together and really kind of leapfrog ahead of others. Yeah? So to me, this is an area where we can really do good collaborative work. So I think there is good potential, but I think every industry is going to be selfish because they know that they have to spend money where the revenue is and where the returns are. I mean, you mentioned of ROI. Yeah, I think we should be very clear that, and be very, very objective that R&D spend will happen when there is ROI. Yeah, nobody does R&D in India because it's good for India. I mean, we should. I mean, honestly, we all should do it. But nobody does spend that, and this is very important because the moment we realize that companies will spend money where their mouth is, yeah, they will not spend it just because somebody has to do good for India. So what is to be brought ahead is that people have to see the commercial opportunity in any R&D spend they do, and that will drive actions in the R&D space. And how do we drive that is through all these new age opportunities that present to us. Yeah. And the whole technology piece and the people piece. One of the things I would say, we set up an R&D center in IIT Chennai. Yeah. People wonder, why did you set up an R&D center in Chennai all the way? You are a Pune-based company. Why did you ever go to Pune, go to Chennai? And it's such a hot and humid place. And we found that even our company employees in a Pune factory did not want to go to Chennai. And we asked them, why? No, it's very hot and humid. You don't want to be there. So I said, why did we set up an R&D center in the middle of IIT Chennai? So we had a very selfish reason. We wanted actually good scientific temperament, talent to be made available in the IIT Chennai campus, and we really got that. Yeah, and we got local talent which could be there. That's our people strategy. That we wanted to be involved in campuses because we could use that as a good source of talent. We have a fellowship program running with IIT Bombay for many years now, and that's been giving us a good source of R&D talent for many years now. Same for IIT Chennai, and therefore for us it is important to realize that what we are doing is not only good for ourselves, it is good for society eventually, and what we started off is good for ourselves. Yeah. So I think that's when companies can realize that what they do good for themselves will do good for others. Yeah. And that has driven our strategy. Technology strategy and the people strategy have come together to give us that extra mile in the R&D space. So I would close with that and I will hand back to Ranjana.
Thank you, Dattaji. You have really brought up the second part of the session, the transition. So I would like to touch upon the transition is primarily the digitization which is coming along. Now, if you look at the basics of the digitization in the industries, we were promoting Industry 4.0. I must say that in spite of the fact that we have been promoting Industry 4.0 over the last 6-7 years, not more than 15% of the small scale or MSMEs is covered into Industry 4.0. So that itself is a big challenge. We need to get MSMEs into Industry 4.0. And A lot of initiatives is taken both by government, industry bodies, and especially CI has doing quite a lot of work to get Industry 4.0 across MSMEs. So looking at that digitization process, and that only help you the transition even in the R&D, artificial intelligence or machine learning or the cloud computing or data analytics, whatever you said, or robotics, process automation. Robotics is very, very critical. During the COVID period, we all have a materials producing inspection, which so far not done. We were doing remote inspection. Factories were never closed. We were working, we were delivering. So digitization has really its own challenges and its opportunities. It has given quite a lot of industries. So given that, digitization is very critical in the coming days. How do you think, Surya, the digitization can certainly help the R&D as well as the industry, specifically MSMEs?
Absolutely. I mean, these days we are talking about digital twins for just about everything. Anything you talk about, I want to have a digital twin, and we are talking about the advantages you have with that digital twin, that you can tweak it in so many different ways to develop these new products. Your creative, endeavors can be developed on top of this digital twin. So one of the things I think is the problem is that it's not that we are not doing R&D. There's a lot of good R&D happening. Come to IITs, you will see fantastic R&D being done. The problem is in transitioning this R&D into some kind of tangible products. That is where the problem is. And then the problem is not just with the academia, it's also with the industry. To be honestly speaking, a lot of the kind of R&D which is very high-tech in nature that is being developed at IITs, a lot of it cannot be understood by the industry. They're not yet ready. They're not yet ready to fund this kind of high risk, high rewards kind of products that you do. Is the industry willing to do that? And then, when they're talking about R&D, we're talking about a lot of science and engineering that is beyond understanding of many of the industries. I'm telling you, we sit with a lot of industries and telling them, this is the thing, this is what, and then half of it doesn't go into them. So it is now, it is also the industry also has to come up to that level. You need to build people to that level to understand what is happening. If that is happening, then we can say, okay, we are now going to bring the next generation edge products is going to happen. Otherwise, we would say India is not producing cutting edge things. Yes, we have the R&D, but we don't have the right people to handhold to take it to the next level. So the transitioning part is where we are lacking in a lot of these things. We may set up many centers, but the problem is that people on both sides should be at the same page, have to understand, have to reach that same level of understanding before we say, okay, this is not a good tech, it is not yet ready for the market. But how do you know? If you say it is not yet ready for the market, there have been so many things that, outside, US or Europe, they get these things out. When Google Maps come, nobody thought that it would be so much, when then people started doing mashups at Google Maps, so many things, and one after the other, Google Earth Engine came. So what is it? So how did they say that, this US is not yet ready? No, it is not. It is not that we are not yet ready to bring it and show it to the people. We are afraid. We are unforgiving if someone fails. This is something that is the cultural part of what we need to change as a basic setup, because we keep failing, and then if you're not forgiven, then you don't get up and do things again. So this is another thing that needs to be changed.
Thank you, Mr. Surya. I fully agree with you. There is difficulties on the industry's point of view, because the ecosystem in which industry also operates, because in a globalized economy, they have their own challenges in terms of compliances, in terms of commitments done. For instance, especially in the case of MSMEs, if you look at, there is a norm known as IRAC, Income Recognition and Asset Classification, which is RBI's classification that on 91st day you will become an NPA if you do not meet your services or the financial commitments. Because RBI has to put in that, because that is country's financial rating. So within that, the Basel III norms, the companies have to follow that 90 days, you need to operate within your financials. So the research and development is something which will not really come in 90 days. It may go to 3 years and 4 years. So there are industrial challenges which coming in where they have to put in money into industries development. That's where there will be government is also looking at Niti Aayog, is especially looking at creating a sovereign fund for R&D into help MSMEs as well as corporates which are involved in large scale R&D which has got a long value chain creating in. So a lot of discussion is going in within Niti Aayog because Niti Aayog also understands that we need to create our manufacturing share in GDP too high. Today the manufacturing share in GDP is hovering around 15%. For a country like India with 1.45 billion people, the sustainability comes somewhere around 25% minimum of the GDP. With that in focus in mind, Niti Aayog is creating a lot of value chain to enhance the manufacturing share in GDP in India, both in India as well as even for overseas subsidiaries to create that value. So I personally believe in the coming years with the government's focus on creating value in manufacturing and contributing that, it certainly should take up their R&D because even for them to go into global, they need to have cutting-edge technology at cooperative rates. Certainly a lot of focus will come from industry side as well as governments and Niti Aayog's this sovereign fund will come for this R&D funding which will certainly help. Over to you, Mr. Joglekar.
Yes, I think the transition is very important in every life cycle because it is an execution stage. And I will just add to what Professor Surya said. In my way of teaching is always interactive because many of you are teachers. So if you are interactive, if it is not a monologue, then things become very interactive and there is a value addition. And I being from industry, we are being trained like that. Change is the only constant. Don't you agree? Change is the only constant. Nokia in 1996, when mobile came, everybody was having Nokia phone with an antenna. But what happened? They resisted the change. कुछ किया नहीं किया नो किया. What happened? Samsung came up, Apple came up. How many of you today raise the hand has the Nokia phone? Even if you see after the demonetization or before that, our currency notes, all are valuable currency notes, old and new. I don't know whether how many of you have noticed because one has to be a good observant. Mahatma Gandhi in the old currency note was looking at right side. Now in the new currency note, he has started looking at the left side. If Bapuji has changed, who are we? So R&D has to go to the new age if we challenge our own status quo. And that is what the great companies where I also work with, they always tell us, never go with the supremacy. Always we are on the learning curve. We always have to learn. So I will tell you a couple of good practices, if you allow, for transition, which Asian Paints and many good companies are doing. I was country head of contract manufacturing at Pan India. So there were 22 MSCs, small and medium kind of paint manufacturing companies, and I was the overall head for that. They always used to learn many things from Asian Paints. So many owners used to always say, sir, आप तो हमको बहुत अच्छा conversion rate देते ही हो. You know conversion rate in the outsourcing. But what we get more invaluable is free knowledge, good manufacturing practices, good thought processes of such a 75-year young company like Asian Paints. So I personally feel that couple of good things which R&Ds in the transition should do is, first, consider R&D not as an expenses, but as an investment. I agree with what Dattaji said, that we always are very stingy. R&D, how much of percentage of, the students at least, whenever you go for the placements or prospective companies, try to see, because all of you are technologists, how much of the percentage of the balance sheet and the details income statement tells about the investment they have done on the R&D. DuPont is always a dream company for all technologists. DuPont has got a budget of failed experiment. Funny, na? Failed experiment. Budgetary provision for failed experiments. अरे अपना ISRO भी एक बार गलती कर चुका है, but it became a grand success. That success was cheaper than the Hollywood movie. So my point is, if that transition has to happen at R&D age, that transition also should happen in academics. All teachers, I would humbly urge you, please develop in the students a role model where they are accepting the failures. Because if you see today, the Zamana is full of reality shows. Only the success is being portrayed. Somebody said in the morning that let there be a startups who have failed and they showcase their failures. So I think today the transition will happen not just because, it is a digitization. Of course, we are also using digitization. I will tell you one more thing, how R&D transition can happen. If you remember, people who are under constraints always will ignite with some innovations. Don't you agree? 3 Idiot picture mein yahi dikhaya hai. People who are under constraints, they come out with something good. We are all in the 24 degrees Celsius, very comfortable place. So we are talking, but people who are on the roadside at 38 degree, they will come out with some practical solutions. So the point is, when there was a corona, thali bajaya sab Modi sahab ne bhi, every industry was closed. But our CEO thought that there is a shortage, demand and supply, shortage of hand sanitizers. Nobody thought hand sanitizer will become such a turbulent between demand and supply. So within 3 months, with the permission of SEBIs and laws of land, Asian Paints launched hand sanitizers. We took this as an opportunity. This is also a transition. Our R&D challenged themselves that why Asian Paints? Now, as you must be knowing, we are not just selling paint, we are selling painting also. Now we are into bathroom fittings. I'm just not here to market about the company, though I am retired, but I can tell you a pride about why these companies and many like this are great, because they challenge, they always are anticipating, they are doing lot of predictive analysis, they are using digitization. Like you go to our signature stores and you just go with your floor plan of your place. They can tell you a simulation, how the flat will look like, what color schemes you should be doing, everything. So I think the transition will happen when academics understand how they can add value, teachers become a role model, and how they can make a student to understand, student also in his or her selfish interest, visit the industries, understand supply chain models, read something which is related to current affairs, because communication is also key. Many technologists are always introvert. I always say, jiska awaaz bada wo chana bechega. If you are not good in communicating what knowledge you have, nobody will notice it. So all those soft skills are also equally important. And if we do that, and if the industry also respect the knowledge, I think transition will be very smooth. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Joglekar, he did bring up one subject about the interaction. Though it is not directly connected, I would like to say that over the last couple of years, government is negotiating with the various countries' FTA, free trade agreements, primarily because that creates value in the country, employment over a short time. You won't believe the interaction that each ministry has with the industry bodies is very, very unique. Every day there may be 3 or 4 calls from the ministries asking for opinion from the industries about doing this FTA, what are the issues, how you can solve. But at the same time, when you sign an FTA, it's both sides. When you sign an FTA, then you have a zero duty import as well as zero duty export opportunities. So the interaction which ministry has got with the industry bodies is something unique over the last so many years, and which is yielding in now into many more FTAs, as well as, so, as I mentioned about the Niti Aayog, this sovereign fund. It is a result of the various interactions they had with industry bodies and industry specifically on this. So industry, I must say, the government interaction is quite unique over the last 4 or 5 years in various sectors. And personally, I've been involved in various FTA negotiations on the sector which I represent, because on the country of origin we need to. So I personally believe the pressure they have, and at the same time we need to represent what we need to safeguard our MSMEs. So government is very, very receptive to those discussions, those ideas in creating in value for signing the FTAs. In fact, when they signed a SEPA agreement with Dubai, that is a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, nobody has thought, government has brought up in the steel plants, they brought under, when you sign an FTA, you need to have a country of origin certificate. They also brought in the case of steel, because Dubai is a free port area, steel can come anywhere. only melted and poured can have a country origin certificate. So once I look at government has gone into much more detail. Otherwise, if anybody can sell in Dubai and bring here. So government has brought that under FTA, that melted and poured can only be brought in. So what I'm saying, interaction certainly helps quite a lot. And that has to continue not only in every sector. Over to you, Ranjana.
Thank you very much. I think you all have covered all the points, but I'll take a little different take on this. India, as you know, and since I've worked in the IT sector, I can say it's a completely service-oriented oriented outlook that we have. And I think that is also because the children or the students are completely, they have had rote learning. We didn't have NEP, the new NEP policy in place and stuff like that. So when I was in TCS, I started my career, as I said, in TCS. We started some product building and they were doing pretty well. Like EX, I don't know, any of you would have heard of it. It was a accounting software and it was a competitor to Tally. Tally, of course, is still there right now. We had Success Plan, which is a project management software, R2, Executive Information System. In Wipro, we had hospital information systems. But why did these products not scale up? That is also because, you know, that R&D mentality of putting in without expecting an ROI is not there. Because you always want to see quick results. You know, companies don't want to put in as much and see the results. And that's, I think, is changing right now. People are doing a lot of innovation and trying to see that R&D is not just about getting quick results. You have to, you know, have to put in a lot to see the results at a different time. And failures may be there. He said very rightly that failure is a part of it and we don't talk about failure. And one lesson which I learned very, early in my career was from Mr. N. Chandra, who's the chairman of Tata Sons right now. Once I was supposed to do a presentation on CRM. I had no idea about CRM at that point, okay? And he said, tomorrow you have to do this in front of a very large group and nobody else is there. I said, I think I will fail. He said, so what, Ranjana? You might fail once. Next time you will not fail. Nobody's going to kill you for failing. And believe me, I was able to deliver the presentation. So if all our, the employees, the professors, the teachers, the government, they all rally around the employees or the people, the students and say you can do it, I think that will be a very different thing. On transition also, I have a different take. I'll just take 30 seconds. I know we are running out of time. We used to transition a lot of processes out of US companies to do it in India or Philippines or in Europe. And the knowledge that we used to acquire from transitioning those processes, we can use that, to build so many other things because we get to understand the core processes, whether it's F&A, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in finance and insurance. So I think we should use that as well to ensure that if we can build something like that. So I'll stop at that and give it to...
Thank you. Failures are the stepping stones to success, Mohan Rao.
Thank you, sir. Since I've been in academics now for the last 25 years on a continuing basis, I will take the academic front only. Now, you heard enough on industry. There are two things that can help us to transition from what we are to what we want to be. And especially given that the NEP policy has given a new direction in terms of inculcating research at the undergraduate level. First is, I think all of us in universities need to do project management. I think when we have got these technologies, centers and all that, they're all working in isolation. They're all working to hope to get industry support. Why should we look for industry support? Make a budget for yourselves. Let's make a budget and see how to manage that project to its logical end. And what is logical end? Since all of us believe in young India, we should make them give us all the ideas to make it happen, right? Rather than we dictate terms to them. So we need to get in project management to manage the transition. The second is that having created the technology, how do you bring it to the market? Right? It's not marketing actually. Most of us mistake we have to do marketing of our technology to companies. No. You need to know how to transfer technology, which industry will accept you. Have you understood just as Joglika said, have you understood the customer? Who will buy the technology? What will they do for that? So here we have a case in point. Just recently, Homi Baba University Institute has signed is in the process of signing a MOU with CII. After doing enough research among the companies, what technologies Homi Baba will be useful for industry. And incidentally, it's not a nuclear. Okay, it's all non-nuclear application that they have developed technologies on, which are useful for even conservation of water. conservation, making the whole campus water free actually, water surplus as we say, right? So there's so many technologies they're bringing in, but they've done research in the company to see what technologies can be useful for the industry, what cannot be useful. That again, that not done by Homi Bhabha as such, but by CII. The CII Secretariat played a major role to see that industries and which are interested in technologies of Homi Bhabha will take it up and implement it. So it took about a year and a half for this MOU to get signed. So I think we should not be in the rush of doing things. We should know how to plan our technology transfers. And whatever we develop, now we've got enough things now, patents. India has opened up on patents. India has opened up on papers. And last but not the least, and I'm going to three takeaways, is quality research. Incidentally, he only told me last year that we are the largest number of paper publishers. We publish number of papers the highest in the world, but how much of them are quality papers? So we have to look at quality publications and to see the publications are not just for research and into the journals and all that, but applied research, where you are able to bring the masses along and get the industry interested in your research. And again, industry, we should not look at big companies, look at the smaller companies. And the last, one more takeaway I'll say is, sir, with your due respect from CII and all these things, get MSMEs to make clusters. Get them to approach universities as a cluster, not as one company, two companies, three companies. If they come as a cluster to a university like Somaya, then Somaya can come with a proposition and how they can solve the problem statements of theirs. Right? So I think that's where industry will play a good role. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohanji. Time is running out, Mr. Datta's.
I'll not take too much time. I'll just make two closing comments. The whole area of transition, in my view, are two words. How do we move from exploitation to exploration? And to me, I think Indian companies and academia also, I would add there, have been very used to exploitation, which means how do you exploit your existing resources well and improve efficiencies and improve productivity and stuff like that. For example, in teaching institutions, all of you are very worried about how many courses you take and what's your number of credit hours you spend. From there to exploration, which means for Indian companies, how do you move from existing products to new innovative differentiated products? And for academia, to move from teaching to research, yeah, is the transition, in my opinion. Yeah? So I would leave you with that thinking, that how do we think about transition as going from exploitation to exploration?
Dattaji, my concluding remark in that in this transition we have to look at what is happening in the global world. In spite of the fact that it's a globalized world, a lot of restrictions are there. If you look at, you might have mostly heard of the term CBAM, that is Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, which is already a law in Europe. By 2026, if India has to export all, right now already in three sectors, aluminum, ferrous and non-other areas, three sectors are applicable. But 2026, any export to Europe will come under C1, where we initially, maybe a couple of years, we need to justify how much carbon we have reduced in that process. That is very, very essential. It is not only in Europe. In USA, there is anti-inflation restriction regulations there. So world over, there are a lot of restrictions which are coming. We have to overcome those restrictions to meet our 2047 target of $30 trillion and $6 or $7 trillion exports. We need to look at, and in that process, we need to have R&D focused on in our areas of operation. Now, in that R&D, even for small industries not connected with R&D, I would like to know, somebody said about MSMEs in the last session. I would say MSMEs can look at very low-hanging fruit in creating value, or rather creating that they save carbon emissions. One is water harvesting. India has such a large area. Can we not do such a good monsoon? Can we not do water harvesting? We can certainly prove that by water harvesting we have used our fossil fuel energy, and that will help our exports. Second thing is, beyond the urban areas or beyond these areas, MSMEs can plant trees. Any tree which is matured, 3 years or 4 years, absorbs around 7 to 8 kilograms of carbon dioxide per year. So you can justify, if you are able to plant 10 trees in your compound, you can say how much carbon you have saved, carbon dioxide is saved. So can you not look at that? We plant trees and calculate in our own calculation for CBAMs. With this comment, I say that very low hanging fruits we can do. We can, in the transition, we can overcome our difficulties. And also we must focus on R&D to create India's value by 2047 to what our country has projected. Thank you very much. Though I have taken more time, sorry for this. Thank you for this. And I believe this session will give some value addition. Thank you for any other comments. Thank you. Any questions from the audience? Sorry, any questions from the audience?
So it's a nice interaction, nice discussion. So myself, Kashinath Patil, professor in mechanical engineering. And see, my question, not question, but bit of it, see, you being, Datta sir said about the academicians should look for the science, and then from science to innovation and innovation to technology. See, until and unless being in an applied field, we need to look for a rigor into innovation and then goes to tech. And after a tech, it should be a market. Because ultimately, being an academician or being a faculty, you have to put yourself as a model wherein you could challenge yourself and go to the market. Until and unless market, what I feel is it's brutal. If you are good, people will accept you. Otherwise, you will die on your own way. So what I just wants to ask you is, see, a lot of buzz is being on the startups on B2B, that business to business or small sort of business which looks for kind of aggravator sort of things. There is hardly anything. So you look at 1 lakh morning also, there is large discussion happening about 1 lakh startups and all. How many are already happening in a deep tech? There are hardly handpicked. It's a government of India itself in a quote about it. So as an Indian perspective, if you do not have a disruptive technology or a product which we envisage, then how the revenue per se will come. Suppose if I look at Harvard business, Harvard, in a medicine, there are 36 Nobel laureates. So, so a lot of innovation has to take long time. And if you are looking something within 2 years down the line or 1 year down the line, how that transition will happen? Being academician, it's difficult for us. So can you have some light?
I'll try to attempt. I think I'll try to attempt your question. As I said, when I mentioned that academicians, we look for science, it's not a formula that may apply to everybody. I mean, it depends on each one's strengths. But what we generally find in that sense is that academics should do what they're good at and also play the role that they're supposed to play, which is teach students effectively and create the creativity within students by exploration. Yeah? So I think that's the point. It does not say that academicians are not capable of taking the leapfrog into markets. They can. I mean, it's possible, and many have shown that's possible. So that's first one thing. The second thing is, I think, to say that most startups are in the B2B space. I think even we had the same impression that there are not enough startups in India and that there are not enough interesting startups that are there. But once we opened our eyes to what's possible, and we actually had many networks opened up, we found that there are very good startups, and many of them are invisible to the normal eye. And we have also learned the lesson that if we explore enough, we can find those startups which are of interest. So I think there are good startups in India today who are doing very good work in both climate change, which is our area of interest, and also in the area of digitalization and sensors, which we didn't think there was enough of it. So I think if we open our eyes and look around, we may find good stuff. Although I'm not that pessimistic about Indian startups, I would say that there are good startups and we can find many. That's my take, but others can add.
I just say in a very light manner, don't look at the rear view mirror, look at the front.
So if I add just a few points, the reason you're specifically talking about deep tech, right? So deep tech is, the reason is that, deep tech are those companies, startups that are working on emerging technologies which are uncertain. So that is one point they have. They'll have to have a very large learning curve themselves So it takes a lot of time for them to come to the market. So incidentally, I've been a moderator in the Startup Mahakumbh of exactly for the deep tech IP protection. So the problem is that a lot of this deep tech IP protection is not straightforward. What are you going to IP protect? If you have a kind of a new deep convolution neural network, you can't have a IP for it. So it's very abstract. So for a lot of the startup companies in AI machine learning, they are at a very precarious stage. They don't know what to protect. They can only have a copyright but no patents. So should they go for a patent? Should they go for a trade secret? What is it that they want to go? So this is a big dilemma that they are in. So that is one of the things probably we need to address.
Change the MSME definition in the year 2020. That MSMEs can manufacture, can also provide service, can also provide R&D and become independent companies. So looking at your financial strengths, one company can certainly focus on what need to do and can get funding as well as sustainability. So government has really taken a very good initiative in the year 2020 in defining, making manufacturing separate, separate distribution separate, or total marketing separate, or even services separate. So you can, individual company can focus on their core strength to sustain. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Dr. Hari Sawan and I'm from KJSIT. My question is to Datta sir. I think he talked about opening an R&D hub at IIT Chennai and IIT Mumbai. Being a Pune-based company, whether you have explored or exploited to start R&D hub at Chennai and IIT Mumbai. Why not COEP Pune?
Well, just to tell you, we have a COEP Pune hub also. We have an excellence R&D center in COEP Pune also, but I didn't mention that, of course. Yeah, so we have that too.
Okay.
So you could go and visit it, and we encourage you all to visit it, and happy to show you around the place. Yeah. We do think Pune is a good place for getting good people. Huh? I mean, not just Chennai and Bombay.
My concluding remarks to many thanks to Bharat Tech Foundation and Somaya College for this great opportunity. Thank you.
I genuinely
I
acknowledge.
just want to ask a last question. We are listening all of you since morning. We are academicians and we are very good listener. But your whatever knowledge we got, it creates so many questions in our minds. Because if you say R&D, academia, industry, or academia is sandwiched between R&D and industry. We are actually working in R&D and facing lots of problems for student development. So everybody is coming, R&D for R&D, Department of Science and Technology is coming to us, targeting us, change yourself. Industries are coming, asking us, change yourself. We are ready to change, but you come to us and change ourselves. Because see, that's why they are out there. Yeah, but not for a while. We want this change permanently.
It is there, ma'am.
Because see, we tried to change ourselves according to your expectation by changing our syllabi. But why not to have an industry-driven academia throughout the India?
Ma'am, it is already there. I can say on behalf of CI, other industry bodies also, Confederation of Indian Industry has more than 120 subcommittees. One of the subcommittees, Industry Institute Partnerships. Mr. Mohan Rao as well as Ranjan are also part of that. They are there. So it's a continuous process. We will certainly get, Somaya is also part of CI. It's not an issue, we will take it up. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And just to give a small answer to your, because nobody here says that academics, is in center. Actually, you are in center. Why you are looking negatively sandwich?
No,
Okay.
I'm
You are in
happy,
center.
I'm happy
And then
that
in that case, on a lighter note, let it be like academia, industry, and
No,
R&D. So it becomes AIR. You
I'm happy
create a air.
that I'm protected by R&D and industry.
On a
Don't
serious-
do All India Radio, AIR.
On a serious note, academicians, see, I am also now a professor of practice post my industry. Academicians are doing a great work of nation building because you are generating the next generation. The only expectation from the industry, which possibly I feel is, we will have to focus from theory to practice, more on applications. You know, like for example, copyright, India mein copyright is right to copy. Huh? So more than, so if suppose I have to come to the campus placement, I will give more weightage on not on research papers, patents, though I respect, but I will see how much value add that candidate can come to the, and do to the industry. So you take your students to industry visits, expose, make them, startups come up to your college and talk about success and failure stories. That is what, if you are doing good, we will look to you for placements.
We expect that industry should adopt some colleges so that they can get good manpower,
yeah, you're
and our
preempting the thing.
student get
Yeah.
Industry exposure.
Good point. Actually,
Very good
Gharda sir only has given us 11 crores to start MBA in UDCity. One example where industry has done. We are starting the
Thank you
course
so
now.
much.
Thanks for this
Already
point.
Somaya is from the industry itself.
I request the dignitaries to be here for a couple of minutes. There is felicitation ceremony, just 2 minutes. I take an opportunity to invite CA Monica Lodha, Director SK Somaya College, to felicitate our revered panelists and the moderator with a memento as a token of our gratitude. एक hold on. I request Monica Madam to felicitate Mr. K. Nandakumar, moderator for this session. I further request Madam to felicitate Dr. Hemant Jogrekar. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, sir. I request Madam to felicitate Professor Surya Darbha to express our gratitude. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, sir. I request Madam to felicitate Ms. Ranjana Maitra. We acknowledge your presence, Madam. Thank you. I request Madam now to felicitate Professor Mohan Rao. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam. Last but not the least, I request Madam to felicitate Mr. Datta Kulekar for his gracious presence and valuable thoughts. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam. I genuinely acknowledge the precious contribution of our esteemed moderator and the panelists in this session of the Trio Conclave. It was a great privilege to have you all. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam. I wish to say that it has truly been an honor to be a part of such an accomplished gathering. With this, I, Dr. Vaishali Ghadarji, sign off. Enjoy the intellectual feast. Trio Conclave. Thank you. Please note that it's time for tea break, so tea is waiting for you outside. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Parth.
My name is Celesta.
My name is Dhimanta.
So I am Swayam Kudai. I am Anurag Tripathi.
So my name is Raj Devani.